You're now live.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March DAC Webcast. My name is Shara Savage. I am the Director in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. I sure hope that each of you are enjoying this beautiful sunshine shining through your windows that we have here in Central Kentucky. As you start and are making your way through the different state assessments this spring. So with that, we have a packed agenda with information on the assessments and updates that we want to bring to you. So we'll get right into it. So here is a look at what we'll be covering today. Miss Tiffany Christopher will be bringing you case screen reminders. And Krista Mullins will be talking to you and giving you updates about AKSA. Jessica Brumley has updates and reminders about the KSA. Kristen Roseberry has SAT updates and reminders, and she'll also be bringing you some information on ACT scores and transcripts. We want you to have all the information you need for your students. So we're going to bring you a little information there. Chris Williams will be bringing you information about SDRR and WIDA Access Assessment updates. And I will be rounding us out with House Bill 257. I'll give you the updates and give you a little bit of the background that what has taken place. So we have I think we have a good full agenda for you here today. So with that, we'll kick it right off with Miss Tiffany. So Tiffany, take it away.
Thanks, Shara. I have a few updates and reminders for K-Screen ordering. The ordering window started on February 23rd, and we're accepting orders until close of business on April 3rd. Curriculum Associates estimates shipping will begin the week of May 11th. And DACs can submit their order using the K-Screen order submission app. Directions are located on our website. If you need any help, also feel free to reach out and email me, tiffanychristopher@education.ky.gov, and I'd be more than happy to help. That's all that we have for K-Screen today. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Krista Mullins with a few AKSA updates and reminders.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Krista Mullins, Program Consultant here in the Office of Assessment and Accountability, and I'm going to talk about some alternate Kentucky Summative Assessment, or AKSA, updates. First of all, the materials for Window 2 will ship based on the selection that your district made in February. So the materials will either ship the week of March 30th or the week of April 6th. If your district did not make a selection by the time that form closed in February, then your materials will ship on the week of March 30th. When you receive those testing materials, we do ask that you immediately open those up and look through those testing materials based on the packing slip, and just make sure that everything you're needing for testing is in those boxes. And then immediately take those secure test materials and store them in a double locked location. If there are any issues with materials, or if you have not received your materials by Monday, April 13th, I do ask that you email me, and my email is here on this slide. I did want to let you know about the first of 2 AKSA office hours. We'll have our first office hour on Monday, April 13th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. And that office hour is going to focus mainly on preparing for Window 2 administration. Here you can see some of those topics that we'll cover. Especially as we approach that Window 2, we have maybe students that have moved in, and questions about Window 1 and how those students will complete Window 1, or if we have new test administrators, what you need to do to make sure they're ready to administer the assessment. During that office hour, the DACs and BACs and DOSes and test administrators, or anyone attending that office hour, will be able to ask questions that they may have. Some other important reminders is that test administrators may only receive testing materials after they've successfully completed the administration code training, inclusion of special populations training, and both of the overview and attainment task trainings, which there's a part 1 and part 2. And then once they have completed all of those trainings, since the quiz is no longer available, you'll need to email me and let me know they've completed all required trainings, and I can open up the quiz for them to complete that quiz. Once they've successfully completed that quiz, it will generate a certificate, and they need to give that certificate to the DACs. To make up window 1 during the second window, there will be a form to request those makeups that will be sent in early April in a DAC email and a special alternate email. And then I did want to remind you that any medical non-participations may be submitted in the Student Data Roster and Reviews, or SDRR, application when those spring rosters do open. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jessica Brumley, to bring you some KSA updates and reminders.
Thank you, Krista. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Brumley, and I'm the program consultant for the Kentucky Summative Assessment. Today, I want to provide you with a couple updates and reminders as we prepare for the 2026 spring administration. First, this is a reminder that all scripts for all grades have been uploaded and can be accessed on the Kentucky portal under Educator Resources. Additionally, Friday, March 20th is the last day to verify text-to-speech and online calculator accommodations that are to verify that they are marked appropriately in Infinite Campus. The IC data will be shared with Pearson on Monday, March 23rd. So it's really important that those IEPs are marked correctly and are locked. Any IEPs that are not locked will be excluded from that information pool, or will not be included. Pearson Access Next, or PAN, will be open to users to begin management tasks on Monday, March the 30th. And we do, as we have in previous years, have office hours where you can ask questions regarding TestNav, PAN, and the KSA administration, which I will provide some more details on the next slide. Our first office hours session will be Wednesday, March 25th, 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. This comes just before PAN opens for users. The Teams link will be provided in an upcoming Monday DAC email. During our session, Pearson will be sharing an overview of PAN tasks that need to be completed, and the tutorial will outline how to create and report to view and add student accommodations, create classes, and create test sessions and add students to those sessions. During this first session, participants will have the opportunity to ask any questions that are related to the KSA, and questions can be submitted early through the link that is provided on this slide. We will have 3 in total, and the following 2 will begin on will happen on April 15th, and then following that on May 13th. And that's all for now, but I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more from me in the coming weeks. And I will pass this over to Kristen.
Thanks, Jessica. My name is Kristen Roseberry, a program consultant here in the office as well. And I want to first bring to you some updates and reminders about our SAT test. So the junior state administration window for spring 2026 opened on Monday, March 2nd. And I'm happy to report that as of the end of day on March 10th, 20,967 students had completed their testing. So our window is open and it's going well. We appreciate the hard work that you all are putting in your districts and schools to make that happen. And so thank you. And we look forward to reporting some good numbers soon as that window closes on April the 10th. So just as a reminder, all testing, including makeups, must occur by April the 10th. Also, I just wanted to remind you all that conducting the student readiness check ahead of test day can provide the student and test day staff with the opportunity to confirm those registrations for your students are correct, and also give your students a chance to practice with Blue Book prior to the assessment. It's not required that you do it before test day, but it does allow your staff and students to interact with the system before they get in there for test day. OAA, our office and college board, will host our 5th office hour on Wednesday, March the 18th from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. This is going to focus on the irregularities, the retests, and any post-test activities that we might have. Your registration is not required. The Teams link can be accessed here on the slide, and I will also be sending that out as well in the Monday DAC email. Wanted to give you all an update on the score release schedule. So it depends on when students take the test as to when they will receive their scores electronically. Students will be able to access their scores in their College Board professional account as well as in the Big Future app if that's something that they signed up for during the student readiness check. And so if students took their test between March 2nd and March 13th, they're going to begin to receive their scores on April the 2nd. If they took the test between March 16th and 27th, they will receive their scores April 16th. And then for those that took it March 30th through April the 10th, their scores will be available electronically on April the 30th. Switching gears just a little bit, we wanted to give you all an update about ACT scores and transcripts. So ACT assessment scores are no longer available to KDE to publish to school districts. The ACT contract ended on June 30th, 2025, when the state's required college admissions exam changed to the SAT. And so this change may affect those student transcripts if the district had previously included those state published scores. Districts that wish to continue including those scores on transcripts can do so by publishing those scores locally, and instructions for loading assessment scores can be found in the Infinite Campus Assessment Score Import Wizard instructions that are also linked here on this slide. And I think I am turning it over to my colleague, Chris.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Kristen. I'm Chris Williams, and I'm going to be bringing two topics for you today. I'm going to start with SDRR, which is our Student Data Review and Roster Application. Now, we already opened yesterday the window collection for our KSA test collection window. And so in SDRR, and so that will remain open until Friday, March 27th at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's where you're going to go in and mark for your KSA test windows for elementary, middle, and high school, and be able to put that for each of those levels. You want to make sure as a DAC that you, with district level use access to SDRR, you'll be able to go in and make those changes to those KSA test windows, be able to add those. And then if you need to make changes throughout the window, you as the district assessment coordinator would be able to go in and do that during this time. Now, if you're a BAC or any type of school level user, you will only be able to see, you will have read-only access, and you cannot make any of changes to those because it's just our district level users who have access to be able to make those changes. Another thing to keep in mind with this is with, our office pulls from Infinite Campus to pre-populate the earliest start date based on changes, to your school calendars. And so it's always important, when you got ready to, when we got ready to pull for rosters that you had as of last Friday, all your school calendars were up to date, then we pulled that information to in SDRR to show you your earliest start date. If you made any changes this week, those changes will not be reflected, and we will do another pull for March 16th. And then those will show your earliest start date, and then you can also go in and put in your windows as well. Now, if you make any changes during that week of March 16th, those changes will not be reflected until March the 23rd. So we will do 2 pulls during that window, but I will say be careful about making those changes, the Friday before we, pull on Monday, March 23rd, because our deadline will be coming up very close to you on that 27th. And so if you make any changes during the 23rd through the 27th, those will not be reflected as your, those changes that you make to your school calendars will not be reflected at that time. And so you would have to, if any changes that are made, that late, and you're not able to see the earliest test date, go in and try to put in a date for you, but then you're going to have to also any changes that are made after this closes on the 27th, you would have to send an email to kdassessment@education.ky.gov, because we always want to make sure that we get our test windows correct, because that's going to be important, not only keeping our school calendars up to date for this particular reason in SDRR, but also when it comes to spring rosters, so that way we can pre-populate your 100-day entity for your students, so you can check that information and demographics. And then also, it's important that, you keep these, that you make sure that your elementary, middle, and high school windows are up to date, because that's when we come out and do site visits during KSA, that's going to be important for us to know when to come out to your districts. So always make sure that you're keeping that stuff up to date. And like I said, sometimes we do, schools do have they'll have a board meeting after this window closes, and it could change some of your calendars. We also have, weather that could happen that, or you forgot to put, a holiday or some other date on your calendar. So that's why it's always important to go through and look at these school calendars during this time. And then if something happens, like with your board, you have a board meeting or changes to those school calendars, and it's not reflecting, your in first day of your, for each of these windows. And keep this in mind that it is one window for all of your elementaries, one window for all of your middle schools, and then one window for all your high schools. And those windows can all be the same if you want them, or they can be different, during that 14-day window. So just keep that in mind. That is up to you as a district to be able to make those updates. Now, this is what it's going to look like when you log into SDRR. And of course, if you don't have a login to SDRR, you always have to contact your WAPOC, which is your Web Applications Point of Contact in your administrative point of contact in your district, which is what we say is our district technology person. And so they're the ones who give you access to SDRR to be able to, as a DAC, to put these windows in. They grant you those permissions. And if you've got someone new, as your district technology person, you can always check with the CAT service desk, and they'll be more than glad to help you, your WAPOC, with that assistance. Of course, we can't help you with giving you permissions into SDRR, but we can help you once you get into SDRR, and always glad to help you. So with this, as I said, if your calendars were up to date, over on the left-hand side, it will show the earliest date of your 14-day, start date and end date. And so that way on the right hand, you can go in and put in your elementary, middle, and high school windows. Always make sure that you hit the button here of update, so that way it saves all your information. And then if something happens and, during this window, you need to go back in, you can always go back in and make any changes to those, and then always update it as well. And then once, it's getting close to it closing, you always want to make sure to export it to Excel or PDF. So that way you will see all the test windows that are entered across the state. So you as a DAC will have that information. It's going to be important when it comes to the Kentucky Summative Assessment window, and you're looking to see when kids are transferring in and out, and when that district's first day of their 14-day window. So that way, you do, if you've got kids who transfer, that you are testing those students. because they could be on anyone in our state their first day of their 14-day window. So keep that in mind. That's always important. And look at those district test windows, and always important to make sure you get those entered during this time. And like I said, any changes that you need to make after that, if it's incorrect and you need to make those changes, that you always want to make sure to send an email to our KD assessment at education.ky.gov, because our data guys will be able to go in and assist you with that. Now, we do have some resources for you to help you with this work. We also had the February DAC PowerPoint and video that also gave you information about the district test window collection and everything, and the screens that you see as well. That's on our meetings and trainings page, and for an SDR webpage as well. We also have the Monday DAC email that was sent to our district assessment coordinators. That's on our communications page for our DACs on March 2nd. And then that email had a lot of details about this. And then also our special DAC email that we sent out March 11th also had communication around this. And then another thing that's also important, and keep in mind that even though we send this out to our DACs, on Monday, or a special DAC email throughout the week, those will always be posted to that DAC communications webpage that is for everyone visible on, after that is sent out on Monday. Another thing is that is important to keep in mind is that I need help button. I can't stress that much when you're in SDRR, is to always look at that I need help button. It's going to also have screen, shots for you and things like that to help you through this process, not only for district test collection window, but when you get into rosters in the spring. Now, let's move to our next update that I'm going to bring you is about WIDA access assessments and updates for you. And I have a few of those. Now, one of the things that with the WIDA access assessments, that includes not only our WIDA access that we take online, but also our paper. It also includes our kindergarten assessments that we take for our English learners. It also includes our WIDA altering access. And then it also includes our students who had to take, who needed accommodated materials of Braille and large print. So all of our materials were to be returned back to DRC as of last month, at the end of last month. And so hopefully all of those are there. They will give me a list. DRC will also give me a list of if there were some secure materials that were not returned. So make sure to check around your areas, where you kept your secure materials, and make sure you don't have any of those secure materials still lying around, because those were already be returned and be postmarked as of last month in February. Now, the next thing on our schedule is our data validation. And the data validation happens in our WIDA assessment management system, which is our WIDA AMS. That will begin on March 18th next week, and that will go all the way to April 1st. And what you're going to do in WIDA AMS is this will be your last opportunity with DRC to be able to make any changes to your student demographics, like their first name, last name, birth date, SSID, all of that, race, ethnicity, etc. All of that, grade, school, and district. You also want to make sure, all of that is correct on the students. You can export those out to an Excel file, but you always have to go back in and manually make any changes to each individual record in WIDA AMS. Another thing you're going to be able to do during this time is not just, check your demographics, but you also want to check your duplicate records. And sometimes and the reason why we have duplicate records is because we, especially for our grades 1 through 3, who take, 3 of the domains of listening, reading, and speaking online. And then they have to, take the writing in a paper booklet. And so the demographics in the online don't always match what was bubbled in on the test booklet. So it's always important to make sure those two things match when you're bubbling in those test booklets, making sure that, if you always want to check those duplicate records, don't delete it. So don't remove any records from, this data validation. What you want to do is for both records, you want to make sure that the student's first name, last name, birth date, SSID, their grade, also their school and district are both correct on both records. And so you would open those up, make those changes, make sure, and then save those changes. Don't forget to do that. And then that's an important piece. And then once those records are saved, then once DRC closes for data validation, they will merge those two records into one. So that way you'll get an overall score when it comes to your scores that will be coming in April. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. But, that's one reason why when people get their records in April, they'll say, well, Chris, why do I have 2 different scores? Well, because, during data validation, you didn't, make sure that both records were, fixed and had the exact same information. So that way DRC could have merged it together during that time, and then be able to make sure that your reports were, correct. So let's just be proactive on that and make sure that those are correct. So that way we don't have that issue and you don't have to say, now what do I do, when it comes to the score reports? Because then we would have to fix it during our last data validation that we do as the state, which would be after you get your reports. Another thing, you also want to make sure that, any accommodations for your students, for your EL students who took, any of the WIDA assessments, that those accommodations were marked in WIDA AMS. And then also if the student took, like our kindergarten or alternate or any of our accommodating materials, that those, if they had an IEP or 504, because that's the only way they got accommodations on access, that those are marked on the test booklet on the back of that. Also, there's those, do not score codes. Also, if you forgot to put those do not score codes, you would want to, or if you needed to invalidate, student record, you would want to contact me and I'll be able to help you, with that particular process. So that way we get those correct. So that will be reflected on your reports. And you're going to get your school reports for the assessments in WIDA AMS. They're going to be online April the 27th. And then your paper materials will be shipped to you May 7th through the 8th. Now, we do have some resources too for you. Both, we have 2 different systems that you're going to be able to look into. You'll be able to get into WIDA AMS to see, to do the access and alternate access data validation for all of your students. That is going to always be in WIDA AMS, and I've linked that for you here. Another thing is that, if you also missed the webinar on data validation, that occurred on March 3rd, and that is still available for you to watch before it opens next week. And so anyone who's going to be doing data validation in your district, you want to make sure that you go into the other system that we have, which is our WIDA Secure Portal. And if you're familiar, you're probably familiar with that one if you did any trainings and was administering the access. Also, our webinars are recorded and underneath the WIDA Secure Portal under webinars. So you will be able to go and get that. And also, there's also the WIDA AMS user guide supplement for data validation that helps you with your work in WIDA AMS. So there's lots of information for you, and you can get that WIDA AMS guide underneath the WIDA Secure portal. So that's why it's underneath here. So I think that concludes all of my updates for you, both on SDRR and WIDA access assessments. And so I'm going to turn it back to Shara, who will give you some accountability updates.
Thank you, Chris. So yes, I wanted to bring you some information about House Bill 257, which proposes changes to Kentucky's assessment and accountability systems. First, the bill would create a new section in KRS Chapter 158 to define key terms and allow local school districts to develop their own local accountability systems. The bill does change the terms of local accountability to local measures of quality. Districts would be required to publicly share the data from those systems, and KDE would provide technical assistance to support districts as they design and implement their local approaches. The bill also allows KDE to incentivize local accountability efforts with a one-time payment of $15,000 for districts to help offset the implementation cost. KBE would be responsible for establishing any necessary administrative regulations. House Bill 257 also proposes changes to remove the state writing assessments and instead requires KDE to support a local writing program developed by each district. Schools would adopt a policy on writing programs and make it publicly available. And then finally, the bill proposes removing change and replacing it with growth in the current state accountability system. Additionally, the school climate safety indicator would be replaced with an absenteeism indicator. The bill was introduced in the House in January. It passed out of the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee on February the 4th. On February the 17th, it passed the House with a vote of 92-1 with the committee substitute. The bill was moved into the Senate and could change. The bill makes no changes to science and or social studies assessment. So I think the key takeaway here is all of this is proposed changes, and it could change because the session, the 26th session, runs through Wednesday, April the 15th. And so, as always, we will continue to monitor all education-related legislation closely because, you know, that your awareness and understanding are essential. And we are committed to providing you with timely and accurate information. So with that, that is the highlights and updates on House Bill 257. I will stop here and we will move into our Q&A session. So Devin, do we have any questions?
We do have one question,
Okay.
and this is about the pan pull for KSA.
All right, Jessica.
Do the accommodations for EL students get pulled into Infinite Campus into PAN?
Yeah. So the IC pool, the information that's being shared is for test staff specifically. So either the text-to-speech or the online calculator accommodations. So if that EL student has those accommodations, one of those accommodations in an official student plan, then it would be pulled with that IC pull. As a reminder, 504 plans are not pulled, so those do have to be inputted manually.
All right, that was our only question pertaining to the webcast this morning.
All right. Well, thank you, Devin. I want to remind you that if you have any questions, you can always email us at dacinfo@education.ky.gov. We welcome your questions, and we are definitely here to support you. Our next monthly DAC webcast will take place on April the 9th at 11. And so until we meet again, take care, and remember OAA is here to support you. Thank you.